is that I have built very deep, good relations with indigenous people in different countries, but it's something that have taken a lot of time. It have taken me years of going every year or more than once a year, showing my way of being, showing my intention, and building a relationship. And that's what today is one of the good assets that we have in our operation, is the all deep, good relations with indigenous people. That is not easy, and it needs a lot of time. So that time has gone, and now we have the relationships in a beautiful state of trust, confidence, transparency, reciprocity.
You're listening to Catalyst Talks, conversations with change agents, outliers, superheroes, and truly conscious leaders modeling what it is to be an unstoppable force for good and truth in this world. What lit these catalysts on fire to do their work, and what nuggets of wisdom can they share with a world literally on fire? I'm your host, Stephanie Trager. I'm a transformational catalyst and life coach to maverick change agents in business, leadership, and life. On this podcast, I wear an eclectic mix of hats, including Earthkeeper, Wayfinder, Truth Teller, coach, lawyer, business, and impact strategist. My intention is holding space for higher purpose, peak wellness, soul mastery, and deeper impact so we can live in harmony with ourselves, each other, and nature. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. If you love it, please share and spread the word. We're on YouTube and all the podcast platforms. See the show notes on catalysttalks.com for links, and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Catalyst Talks podcast. I'm really grateful to have my guest, Daniel Koupermann, here today, a dear friend and a deep wisdom keeper, someone I really hold as a deep wisdom keeper and a blessing in my life. And Daniel is the owner of Andean Paths, which is one of the first developers of ecotourism in Ecuador. They designed and built Kapawi Lodge, Eco Lodge, in the Ecuadorian Amazon basin. And Daniel has over 30 years of experience with the Ashuar people of that region. He's developed strong relationships with many leaders and powerful shamans in the territory, was a former president of Fundación Pachamama, the Ecuadorian arm of the Pachamama Alliance in the U.S., which is a well-known nonprofit organization many of our listeners are familiar with, that work with indigenous groups in the Amazon region of Ecuador and Peru. And Daniel has built strong relationships of reciprocity with indigenous communities in places in Guatemala and in Colombia, for example, with the Kogi People, who we will be co-facilitating a journey with together later this year. And we'll talk about that in our conversation. And Daniel has just so much wisdom that he has to share, that he's gleaned from holding these connections and spaces for so many decades, including over, decades where the world has significantly changed. So I'm really excited to drop into this conversation. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you, Steffi. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, we had our first conversation in the early days of this show in 2020. So excited to dive back in today. And I'd love for you to share a little bit of your unique journey, Daniel. You're really inspirational. You don't need 1 million followers on Instagram and a whole thing online. You do what you do, and you have this deep, silent, but very loud impact. And I feel it. Many people feel it, and they come and stay in your orbit. So take us back to the beginning when you fell into the work that you're doing now.
Well, it was just life that showed me this path. I never choose or plan to do what I'm doing and to what I have been doing. But because life showed me that way, I just made my decision to follow those openings of the life. And then I start doing some condor viewing journeys while I was managing hotels in Cuenca, Ecuador. And then something happened that involved me with the jungle people, the Shuar people. And after being with them for that first occasion, I got a call from the jungle and from the jungle people to explore that part of the world. Then I was looking for a place where to start doing some journeys, adventure journeys. And I found a place in the Shuar territory where I spent 12 years with the Shuars. And I used to do adventure journeys with a small aluminum boat, 5-6 days in the rivers, sleeping on the shores, sleeping in communities. And those 12 years for me were the very powerful learning time. And I got during those 12 years amazing mentors between shamans and a Shuar lady and a couple of missionaries. that were in that area. So all that made me being very connect and learn a lot about the jungle and the jungle people. In that occasion with the Shuar. Then I was called to contribute with a corporation that used to own a very luxurious, or the most luxurious cruise ship in Galapagos Islands. And they were looking to develop a jungle lodge. So they called me to help them with that initiative. And then I started searching where to do it and exploring. And I found this incredible place on the lower Pastaza River that belongs to the Achuar people. So I went to talk with them, with the leaders, and without me knowing, they were just starting their own organization. They were just a year before, they found their organization, and they were looking for projects to make the organization stronger and to make the organization grow. So the proposal of building a lodge in their territory was very, shows up in the right time for them. That they were looking for something to do with the organization. So they were very interested and they liked the idea. And then we went to explore together the community that I overflew, and I like to start there because the beautiful Blackwater lakes were there. That community didn't like the idea of building a lodge in their territory, so we kept going until we got to Kapawi community. They liked the idea. And then that's the way as I was accepted, and the project was accepted by this Achuar community in the Lower Pastaza. And it has been the beginning of a beautiful story of building this eco lodge, bringing the economy inside the territory so the people do not have to go out looking for money, and make the lodge based on a very unorthodox equation, which was that the corporation could invest like $1.7 million without buying the land, and with the commitment that give back to the indigenous people the ongoing business after 15 years. Thanks to the will of the CEO of this corporation, he is the only one of the board of directors of 7. He was the only one that see a good possibility in this unorthodox proposal. So that was the way we did the lodge, and the 15 years gone, and the corporation fulfilled the commitment and give back to the indigenous people the lodge that is currently in their hands, and became a very powerful conservation tool, not only for the forest in that area, but also for the culture, and also became a sustainable development economic alternative that is there and is working and is helping to preserve the forest. So more or less, that is a resume of this story of Kapawi Lodge. Then since 2012, when everybody was talking about the end of the world, because the Mayan calendar, the long count, you know that the Mayans have like 14 calendars, and one of them is what is known as the long count calendar that lasts 26,000 years. So, but everybody was talking about the end of the world. Just randomly, I was in San Francisco, invited by the Twist, and John Perkins and us were at this dinner. And I say, like, kind of joking, John, let's start doing journeys again. Because I used to do journeys with him before Kapawi Lodge in the Shuar territory, shamanic learning journeys. And he said, yeah, let's do it. So we sent mails to our contacts, and we got like 22 people wishing to go to Guatemala. So that was the first journey outside of Ecuador. And since then, little by little, I start opening Peru, Colombia, Patagonia, and next year, Mexico. I have already a new itinerary in Mexico, in Oaxaca region. That is the way how I was involved with these originary people in all these countries, in Guatemala with the Mayan, in Colombia with the Kogi people, in Peru with the Queros, in Mexico with the Zapotec descendants, And the only place where I couldn't get involved with indigenous people is in Argentina and Chile in my Patagonian journey, because in the bad shape, they are like invisible for the establishment. They don't respect, they don't take care of them. They don't help them to be part of the society. And in Chile is a little bit different, but the Mapuche people in Chile they are upset. I will say they are in kind of a war state, trying and claiming the government to help them to get back their ancestral lands that was took by colonialism and corporations, logging corporations and tourism corporations and cattle ranching corporations. And at the end, all their ancestral land, it's not in their hands, and they don't have good land where to live and not enough land for the new generations. So they are in a very critical situation, trying to be recognized by the establishment of the government of Chile. So for those reasons, I'm not involved with indigenous people in the Patagonia journey that involved Argentina and Chile. But in the other countries, that is the main component of my journeys. And the reason for that is that when you start looking at carefully in the knowledge of the ancestral people of these countries, you can find amazing, powerful messages and learning that could be applied in our modern time lives, to be more present, to not get involved in the noise of the modern time, to find our own humanity, and to be useful for the others, which is one of the important components of being living today in this world. We should be useful for the others. And so listening the teachings of these Aboriginal people or these indigenous people of this country, that they still keep their traditions and still practice their way of life and their cosmovision, so we can get a very powerful tools for our own lives in these times. And that's the goal of my journeys, to facilitate the travelers that come with us to access to that space where they can get all that for their own well-being and for the well-being of the people around them.
Beautiful. And I can attest to the truth of that, as I have journeyed with you before. It's really interesting. We're in a time now, and because you walk your talk and live outside of the noise, in a lot of worlds like the World Economic Forum and in corporations, and there's this whole movement that's now spilling through a lot of mainstream circles and worlds that is, curious and wanting indigenous wisdom, that it's this thing over there, but there's this curiosity and a hunger for it right now. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, that's, as I told you, that's what I am trying to do, because I have experienced in my own the benefit of putting attention in those teachings. What I think is one of the good things I have achieved is that I have built very deep, good relations with indigenous people in different countries, but it's something that have taken a lot of time.
Yeah.
It have taken me years of going every year or more than once a year and showing my way of being, showing my intention and building a relationship. And that's what today is one of the good assets that we have in our operation, is the all deep good relations with indigenous people. That is not easy. It needs a lot of time. So that time has gone, and now we have the relationships in a beautiful state of trust, confidence, transparency, reciprocity. So that's maybe one of the most important things. And then about the attitude of the people from the modern world, respect to approaching the knowledge of indigenous people, one of the first things that I always ask and invite my guest is to not have that romantic idea about indigenous people, because indigenous people are also humans, and a human wretchedness is also present in them. So we have to really be grounded and not have that romantic idea that indigenous people are kind of superhumans or something like that. And also not to pretend to keep them static in the state of how they used to be hundreds of years ago. Indigenous people are also living in the modern times. Indigenous people today are also under the influence of the social media and the current technologies, phones and internet and all that, what is happening and going on today. They are also part of that. It is important to understand that context of indigenous people today, even if in our journeys, especially when we go to see the Kogis or the Achuar, we will see some of them that are still not part of that.
Yeah.
But some of them, especially the new generations, are already being part of that. But the important thing is that they still keep their own traditions in their own way of life. And when I say their own traditions, also the way of seeing life is still there. Still there in most of them. And that's what we approach in our journeys.
That brings up a memory when we were in Colombia. Remember, there was a young guy in where I forgot exactly where we were, and he took someone's phone, but it was returned. It was like, "What is this?" and took all pictures with it and stuff.
I remember that.
Sheila's phone. That's been a journey for me too, and in decades of my journey in parallels with Indigenous communities through activism. It was less around journeys and it was more through activism. And you have this solidarity because you want to protect the forest or you want to, protect the land and usually from extraction. And so it's been a journey for me to also acknowledge that. And that's one of the teachings that you've shared that really ground this for me. And I think one of the things that I'm excited, I'm going to be joining you, and we're bringing a group to the Kogi in Colombia this December. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about conveying, and I want to kind of bring this into the conversation, is that we just not to romanticize and pedestalize Indigenous people or the Kogi or anybody. There is this buzz around the Kogi because they have been less in the mainstream than, say, tribes in Ecuador or other, Indigenous communities that have come forth. But one of the things is like, it's this perception of reality, forget about all of the other trappings as humans, but the perception of reality that is so important I feel is so important for us to bring into our future and for future generations to first of all, remember we're all from this earth and that we can all access these perceptions, though, like some of the perceptions of the Shikwa, for example, the energies of planet Earth, of perception of nature as relative, perception of people and energy and healing and all of the different things that we see outside of ourselves, but that we have those things living, we can access those in places within ourselves. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, when you are there on the field with them, sharing with them days, doing ceremonies with them, that's the moment when you really get connect with what you are saying, And connection with nature, everybody talks about that. And everybody say always, no, we are all one. We are part of nature. But the difference is, for me, saying it and understanding it with your mind, which is easy. But feeling that we are 40% genetically the same as the fly that is in the window of our house. 40%. No, don't talk about gorillas or chimps or orangutans, just about the fly. that isn't the window that for us is dirty. It's a dirty insect. But anyway, we have 40% of the same genes. Can we feel that? Because it's easy to understand, but can we feel that? Can we feel something when we realize that science tells us that the molecule of the hemoglobin that we have in our blood, the main thing we have in our blood, let's say, instead of say hemoglobin, let's say blood. The molecule of the blood is exactly the same as the molecule of the chlorophyll. The only difference there is one atom in the middle of the molecule. That blood has iron and the chlorophyll has magnesium, but the molecule, the rest, is exactly the same. We can understand that, but can we feel that? Can we feel that nature is telling us that how she has created this marvelous world, this marvelous nature? It is created with some patterns that are very clear, and that can we feel that? Because while we keep just saying that we are part of nature, that we are all one, but we could not feel that, is not an authentic epiphany, is not an authentic growth. We have to feel that. And in the ceremonies that we do in our journeys, and in the conversations that we have in our journeys, is where the space we open in there is where we can start feeling that. And for me, that is kind of mandatory condition to really absorb the real meaning of all these indigenous teachings and indigenous knowledge about nature and about the perception of nature, or something like the dreams. For indigenous people, dreams are a real part of their lives. It's not just a neurological activity, marginal in their lives. No, for them, dreams are important part of their life because it happened. So can we go there and give that value to our dreams? Can we really believe in our dreams and start making them being part of our life? So those are the differences that we have to work with to understand and to receive the benefit of what you are saying, the way indigenous people perceive nature, the way they perceive life, the way as they perceive themselves in life. You have to start feeling these things that are easy to understand with our mind, but it's not easy to feel it. And because what our mind don't let us. That is the irony of this conversation. That is our own mind that do not let us have the power to feel these things or these samples that I was just saying. It's our own mind that don't let us go there. So that's what we try to learn in these journeys, and that's what we try to acquire for us in these journeys that we are doing.
Love this. Yeah, the mind is the constructs of what we believe is reality, what most people believe in reality in the Western and modern world. Like it sounds like a myth, or we talk about the cosmovision as it's this thing over there, and we're all here. We're all humans. We're all one molecule different, or we all share a similar DNA to the fly. And yeah, I'm really excited to have this opportunity to bring together a group and us journey together with you, Danielle. And so let's talk a little bit about that journey that we're taking to Colombia in December. It depends when you're going to be listening to this, because it'll be many years later where people are listening still. And so this is December 2023. When I reached out to you and said, hey, I'd love to do this with you. Again, we were planning for a trip to Ecuador and then COVID happened. This is because I went on this journey with you and John in 2018. And it was profound. And one of the things that I love, because I I just love how the simplicity, right? We don't need big feathers and we don't need a lot of things. And one of the things I remember the Kogi, I forgot exactly who it was there who said this, but it was really around the stones, the rocks, and how, we have these elaborate altars here and we get these pretty beautiful stones, and just the perception and perspective, even things that, and I consider myself pretty open-minded and connected with myself and nature, and like just these little things that make you think, wow, oh my gosh, perceptual shift, such as a simple rock from outside your house, wherever you are in the place where you are, is as potent as that gorgeous amethyst. Perhaps it is a different frequency and different energy and a different, decades and hundreds of years of formulation. But it's just challenging our assumptions and beliefs about ceremony and about possibility.
Yeah, the Kogi people is very special. Actually, is very unique because they are living relatively close to the Western world, but at the same time, they are very far away. They call us the younger brothers, and they consider themselves as the older brothers. They don't want to be as the younger brothers because the younger brothers take everything. They eat, they breathe, they drink, they fish, they cultivate the earth, and they never say thanks. So for them, that is like, wow, why they do that? And they never say thanks. They never make offerings to Mother Earth, to life, saying thanks. So that make them feel that today is the time for them to pass the message to the younger brothers. And the beautiful thing about the journey we are doing, Steffi, is that when you came in 2018 with John, we got a great program. But today what we are doing is different because today, as part of the program, we are doing a pilgrimage. So making the pilgrimage with the Kogis is what the program is today. And that is very, very different than before, because in that pilgrimage, we will be visiting those sacred places in their sacred land where they have their altars, as you are talking about, to make offerings. And each of those places has a special attribute that every time that we stop in one of those places, the Kogis will explain to us which is the attribute of that place. So we connect with that attribute of that place and we do our offerings with little cartons that they collect and they prepare for us to put in our fingers. The cartons close our eyes, bring our thoughts. For them, our thoughts are very, very powerful. For the Kogi people, our thoughts are the manifestation of our spirit. So they said to us always, if you want to get in contact with your spirit, if you want to know about your spirit, have a good look in your thoughts. There is where your spirit is. Your spirit manifests through your thoughts. And then they have another deep belief that our thoughts are nourishing Mother Earth. And that's one of the big problems of the modern world, because most of humankind thoughts are not good quality thoughts. Most of human thoughts are focused on non-transcendental issues, are not connected with nature, with the creation, with being thankful. Our thoughts, or most of the humankind thoughts, are connected with social media, with work, with money, with pleasure, with drinks, with diets, with things that are not nourishing properly or with quality to Mother Earth. So they strongly believe that the humans' thoughts nourish Mother Earth. They strongly believe that the activity of the animals and plants, wherever they are, nourish Mother Earth. So Mother Earth, among them, today is not getting good nourishment because humankind's thoughts are not good quality nourishment. And that's why the global warming, that's why the social injustice, that's why the wars, that's why the growth of poverty, that's why the contamination of nature is happening. Is because the quality of nourishment we are giving to the creation is not a good quality nourishment. And that's what they are trying to tell us, for us to understand and for us to do whatever is in each of us hands to make a difference.
Again, it's not just a mental construct or a thought, like the mental, it's feeling that. I remember when we were there, like we were not allowed in their village until we did deep purification of our thoughts. And that's how I had, we have that lived experience. Yeah, it's amazing the work that you do, Daniel, and that we have the opportunity, that people now have the opportunity to come on a journey like this, and like all of the journeys that you lead, and that this one in particular in December, because it is the lived experience that helps us feel, like really, really feel. And it's not just when we go away, then we come back, we're different. We're just different humans. We're just different when you come back. You remember who you are at such a deep level. And it kind of upgrades the work we're here to do in the world, because once you see different, you can't unsee. I'd love to just ask you, what are some of the biggest concerns right now, like the Kogi, for example, of what's happening on their land in particular?
Well, in this moment, they are having hope to get back their ancestral land. Because remember that the Kogi land on the 70s is where we used to have the best marijuana in the world, the golden marijuana of Santa Marta. And all those plantations of that marijuana in the 70s was happening on the Kogi land. And the people that was planting, they were planting this marijuana, took the land of the Kogis to make the marijuana plantations, cheating them or buying them for nothing or with violence. Then after a while, at the mid-'80s, all those plantations moved to coca leaf plantations, and that expand the size of the territory of the Kogi that was took by these narco people to put these coca leaf plantations. And again, they took their land, mainly threatening them with violence. And then once all that business of coca were going on in the Sierra Nevada, a big war between the guerrillas of the FARC with the paramilitaries that were fighting between them, and they caused a lot of violence and killing and genocide. It was a very dark moment in that part of Colombia. But in 2005, the government cleaned up that area with the army, the navy, and they really clean up and they put in jail all these people and they destroy all the plantations. So those farms, those lands are today very cheap or relatively cheap. And the Kogi are expecting in some way that with the help of people like us or the help of NGOs or the help of the Colombian government, international aid, they can buy those farms and bring back to them the land that used to be in the old time before the 70s, that was the land of the Kogis. So that's one of the things that are going on in the territory. They want to try to get back that land. And what it is amazing, because we have been looking this, since we are going there, the travelers collect some money sometimes, and with the money they come the next year and they buy land, buy farms. And it's amazing that we have seen those farms, how they were before the Kogis or when they bought it, and how those farms are couple of years after, nature has come geometrically. I don't know if there's somebody that could regenerate nature as the Kogi can do it.
Wow.
You go to those farms and there's plenty of lushy vegetation, plenty of trees and life and insects and animals. They have that skill to regenerate nature beautifully and in a very short time, because they don't use much. They don't need much. So they don't use the land for their own interest. The mission of the Kogi people is to be the custodians of the creation. And one of the great things about them today is that even today, they still deeply believe on that. The role of humans is just being custodians of the creation. So that's what they're doing. And that's why they have the skill to regenerate nature so beautifully in so short time. That's one of the things that the Kogi are worried about today. And also they are worried about passing the message to the younger brothers. That is something important for them. I will say those are the two most important things: passing the message to the younger brothers and getting back the ancestral land to be custodians and to bring nature back.
I remember we did that when we were there as well. And through Dream Change, we had raised a bunch of resources so that was facilitated. And I hope we get to go and see the farm, that land that was purchased, I should say purchased, that was returned. So yeah, I am curious, Daniel, I hope that message just lands in everyone's hearts. And because there's just so much buzz and noise and good things happening around regeneration and soil, regenerative agriculture, regenerative soil. And it's just so complicated, but it's one of the things with the Kogi, right? It's not complicated. It's like when we step back and be stewards, it's the natural state. So Daniel, one last thing I would love to ask you is, how have you changed? I can't say just from your experience with the Kogi all these years, but just in general, what's one thing that you've noticed more recently that has shifted for you as a result of your work?
So many things, but I don't know. After all these years with them and doing that, the contribution with myself is that I feel complete myself. That I don't want anything. I don't need anything. The only thing I would like is to keep being alive, to keep doing my mission, to keep working on my mission, and to have time to enjoy life with my beloveds. That feeling of being complete, that feeling of not needing anything else. I don't have a bucket list. I don't have any wish that more than being present, being active in my mission, and being useful for others and for nature. Getting to that state maybe is what I got from all those years and from all those experiences with Indigenous people.
That's what everyone is looking for. And it's right here. So thank you.
Right here.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, I'm really excited to be spending time with you again soon. And yeah, we'd just love to invite everybody. We'll have a link to where you can learn more about the journey that we're going to be taking in December of 2023. And we'll put those all in the show notes so that you can join us, because there's still some spots left. Daniel, would you have anything you want to share in terms of?
Just hoping and expecting that some people join us and come with us to experience together this beautiful journey, these beautiful people, and to share together and get from the Kogis the messages and enjoy the beauty of the Sierra Nevada and the Tayrona National Park and the Kogi people. So I hope that some friends join us in this journey, and I will be so happy, Steffi, to be again with you. And I hope that some of your friends decide to come and join us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And the magic of us all being together as well. So a lot of transformation and remembering who we are and other beautiful transmissions we're all meant to have is awaiting us. So again, you'll find the links in the show notes for where you can learn more about this journey or reach out to me if you want to have a conversation. And we'll also put notes, information about Daniel and where you can find his beautiful work in the show notes as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Steffi. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Catalyst Talks. Stay tuned for what's up next, and please subscribe to our podcast and rate us wherever you listen. You'll find these all at catalysttalks.com. Join the conversation on social media, and if you'd like to reach out, please send me, Stephanie, a private message through stephanietrager.com. Your attention means the world to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.